D-Day in Dubai, all eyes on Kohli. Trade pact talks ahead. Delhi ducks Trump's fresh salvo on tariff cut. US President Donald Trump's latest salvo that India has agreed to cut their tariffs way down did not elicit any immediate response from Delhi Saturday. Officials indicated that it's one bait that the Indian establishment is not going to bite, especially when the ground is being prepared for negotiations on a bilateral trade pact. Speaking at the Oval Office Friday night, Trump said India's charges us massive tariffs. Massive. You can't even sell anything in India. It's almost restrictive. We do very little business inside. They have agreed. They want us to cut their tariffs way down because somebody is finally getting exposed for what they have done. In the Indian assessment, a bilateral trade pact will deepen two-way trade across the goods and services sector, increasing market access, reduce tariff and non-tariff barriers, and deepen supply chain integration. Negotiators will look to finalize their deal by autumn. Delhi clears 2,500 monthly payment uh, payout for women. Mahakumbh is over now. The hard part, dismantling Mela city over 4,000 hectares. Mahakumbh is over now. The hard part, dismantling Mela city over the 4,000 hectares. Delhi ducks Trump's fresh salvo and tariffs. First, there are five broad takeaways from how Delhi views the latest Trump salvo. First, it was during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's meeting with Ms. Prime President Trump at White House on February 13 that Delhi and Washington agreed to negotiate first tranche of the mutually beneficial multi-sectoral agreement. By fall this year, this official said happened hours after Trump bought reciprocal tariffs for the first time. So, in a sense, India was able to kick the can down the road and brought time for itself. Second, the Indian side conveyed the seriousness and urgency to the Trump administration on February 13, saying it would send the lead negotiators once the US side has its trade representative in place. Modi and Trump agreed to designate senior representatives to advance the negotiations. They were they were to work towards increasing market access, reduce tariffs and non-tariff barriers, and deepening supply chain integrations. Once the Senate voted 56-43, once the Senate voted 56-43 to confirm Jamieson Greer as the United States Trade Representative on February 26, Goel and a delegation of officials were sent to hold talks with Greer and US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and their teams from March 3 to 6. Goel became one of the first interlocutors to meet both Greer and Lutnick to broadly discuss the contours of the negotiations. Third, the Indian side views this as a good start to the negotiations since both sides have common understanding of the proposed deal. Lutnick framed the broad objective quite well at the India Today conclave, which he joined virtually after meeting Goel, where he said, "It's time to do something big, something grand, something that connects India and the United States together, but on a broad scale, not product by product, but rather the whole thing." The Indian view is similar to that of US. It was underlined by the MEA spokesperson Jaiswal. Our objective through BTA is to strengthen and deepen India-US two-way trade across the goods and services sector, increase market access, reduce tariff and non-tariff barriers, and deepen supply chain integration between the two countries. Fourth, given the broad scope of the deal outlined by both sides, the negotiations will be long and torturous. This would mean several rounds of discussions between the negotiators at the technical and political level. Sources said the discussions on tariff and other aspects of the trade highlighted during PM's visit to Washington DC are ongoing process. There are specifics which have been mentioned on the various issues as part of the negotiation. It is also natural that both countries have their interests and sensitivities. There are legitimate matters for a discussion, a source said. Trump's salvo is a classic tactic of talking up his demands and talking down the adversaries at the negotiating table. There is no need to take the bait, an official said. Closed door negotiations and not negotiating through megaphones. Fifth, until the negotiations take place, Indian side will work with the Trump administration's negotiators so that the reciprocal tariffs are not imposed. This is the expectation from Delhi side. Trump just delayed the imposition of tariffs on Canada and Mexico by a month, and Delhi will be looking at a similar situation until the deal is finalized. Sources said India has reduced its average applied tariff significantly for key developed countries like Australia, UAE, Switzerland, and Norway under the recently concluded mutually beneficial bilateral trade agreements. The Kokizo Council has expressed strong condemnation of this decision of the government to impose free movement, as the government was fully aware of the potential for violence if such a decision is put to action. Kokizo Council firmly emphasizes that while the idea of peace is indeed welcomed by all, it cannot be achieved through the imposition of force at the expense of a particular community. Forcing peace upon unwilling parties can lead to further conflict, undermining the very goal of harmony. Sustainable peace must be fostered through careful consideration of interest and aspiration. Our rally is to spread the message of peace, not to provoke the Kukizo community. Why are the security not allowing us? Manihar said. Earlier in the morning, security forces had foiled the proposed March to Hills rally organized by the Federation of Civil Society Organizations, a METI group. Students who didn't study maths in class 12 can opt for BCom honors, says Delhi University. In a major policy shift, CPM for private investments in Kerala PSUs. Stalin allows three-language formula to flourish in private schools, tries to stop it in government institutes. Maharana Pratap, Shivaji are national heroes, not Akbar, Aurangzeb, UP CM. An elderly man allegedly died by suicide by jumping in the funeral of the pyre of his grandson, who hanged himself after killing his wife in MP's CD district. Reduce and increase. There is no doubt that one citizen, one vote is the basic principle of democracy, but as the American realized in 1776, it is contrary to the principle of federalism. They found a solution that seems to have served well in the last 250 years. They redetermined from time to time the seats allotted to each of the 50 House of representatives on the basis of population of the state, but gave equal representation to each state in a Senate. India, like the US, is a democracy and a federation. We discovered the pitfalls of representation by proportion of population in 1971, but instead of finding a solution, we kicked the can down to the road until 2026. The last census was held in 2011. Next census was due in 21 but was postponed. In a census after 2026 would mean that delimitation must follow, redetermination of the number of seats allotted to each state will follow, and some states will be rewarded for the rapid growth of the population, and some states will be punished for attaining the total fertility rate of 2.0 or below. The inequality of one citizen, one vote will hit you on the head if the total number of seats in the Lok Sabha is frozen at 530 plus 13 and delimitation and redetermination are done as per Article 81 and 82. The southern states will lose badly. Their total number is estimated to come down from 129 to 103. Any manner of applying the principle of proportion of population to determine the number of seats in the Lok Sabha for states will punish the states that have done well in reducing the fertility rate and stabilizing their population, which was a national goal for over 50 years and still is. Today, the southern states have a voice equal to 129 of 543 in the Lok Sabha and is not vocal enough. The promise that the number of seats of the southern states will not be reduced is a hollow promise. Please note that there is no promise that number of seats of the most populous state will not be increased. If both no reduction and increase must be effected through redetermination of seats, the only way it can be done is substantially increase the number of elected members in the Lok Sabha. Anticipating and planning for such an eventuality, a new chamber of Lok Sabha has been cleverly designed to seat 888 members. If that route is taken to redetermine the seats, the voice of southern states will be considerably diminished. Either way, it is too high a price to pay for adherence to the principle of one citizen, one vote. It is also unacceptable price to pay. The current total fertility rates of selected states tell the story: 1.7, 1.7, 1.8, 1.8, 1.8, 3.0, 2.35, 2.0, 2.0. In terms of voices of the states in Lok Sabha, total fertility rate states low TFR states will be losers and high TFR states will be gainers. The membership of Rajya Sabha is already skewed in favor of more populous states. If the central government sticks to the letter of Article 81 and 82 of the Constitution, the southern states stick to the opposition to redetermine based on the population. It will be the case of an irresistible force facing an immovable object. India needs to catch up. Striker Ansari who spoke up for South Asians in UK. The shaky state of manosphere. Caught between allegedly false criminal cases and denied access to his son, Sharma had declared bitterly that his ashes shouldn't be immersed if justice isn't served. Rather, they be thrown in the gutter around the court that had made his last years a living hell. Are these tragedies simply aberrations by a fragile man of unsound mind who can't handle the fallout arising from failed marriages? Because plenty of people are trapped in terrible situations, but they don't go around offing themselves. Or is it indicative of a wider problem that a sizable number of men become victims of frustrating court protocol, their unheeded despair pushing them into the extreme step? It is worth noting the narrative around acrimonious separations is shifting. A quiet pushback is gaining momentum both by citizens and courts, questioning laws and biases that manipulate opinion, typically painting women as hapless victims of galling men. The magazine Voice for Men in India.com carries the latest news in rulings on POXO and Section 498A. There are videos with important information for young men on their rights when consensual relationship turns into accusation of rape by a spurred lover. In a ruling last month, Odisha High Court quashed rape charges against a man, acknowledging that non-culmination of a relationship into marriage can be a personal grievance, but failure of love is not a crime. A welcome judgment, but the process is the punishment since the accused had to live with the ignominy of being deemed a rapist since 2012. At the same time, a baffling order by Allahabad High Court directed 26-year-old rape accused to marry the 23-year-old victim within 3 months. Indian Purush, a popular page on LinkedIn, is clearly run by an embittered man vows to fight such like legal terrorism and has organized what they are calling Satyagraha for Men, a march to Jantar Mantar on April 19, drawing attention to these suicides. It doesn't need to have said in a hopelessly patriarchal societies, laws protecting women from dowry demands and violence are critical, but it bears acknowledgement while the constructs of sex and marriage remain largely legally intertwined. The scope of formidable deceit is also huge. Going by the anguished comments posted on various handles of male rights crusaders, men are floundering completely out of their depth dealing with emancipated women who have the law and public sympathy on their side. No wonder the modern wife has been recast as a pit pitiless femme fatale, the toxic Indian male, no match for her cunning wiles. The blunt truth, however, is comically simple. Marriages lasted when women didn't have the money. When they match men financially, their expectations rise and their tolerance dips. Men stuck in some time warp are still reeling and befuddled befuddlement that women aren't interested in doubting up to perform the traditional roles their mothers did. Actually, twin forces of women's empowerment and male entitlement have sounded the death knell for marriages. The issue of casual sexualism is hilariously addressed in Netflix show Alpha Males about four middle-aged amigos navigating the changing world of masculinity. One loses his job and becomes an assistant to his influencer wife. Another is shattered by his wife wanting an open marriage since the days of Cleopatra and mystique of the ambitious, independent women has been seen as a threat. Today there's a Cleopatra everywhere. Musk Rubio clash in White House meet over job cut as Trump watches. To criticism, Rubio says 1,500 employees have taken early retirement and adds, can we rehire to fire them again? Musk hits back saying he was good on TV. Marco Rubio was incensed. Here he was in the cabinet room of the White House, the Secretary of State seated beside the US President, listening to a litany of attacks from the richest man. 2 days of clashes, revenge attacks in Syria, Russian strikes kill 14. Pakistan asks illegal foreigners, Afghan citizen card holders to leave by March 31. Muslim nations reject Trump's Gaza plan. Panel on 2009 Bangla Rifles mutiny seeks Hasina's testimony. New income tax bill defines virtual digital space for searches seizures. The new income tax bill proposes to give powers to tax officers to access social media and other digital accounts, including online investment, trading, and bank accounts, email servers. The new IT bill has defined virtual digital space in the power to call for information by income tax authorities during surveys, searches, and seizures. It defines virtual digital space as any digital realm that allows users to interact, communicate, and perform activities through computer technology. Sources said the new provisions under Section 247 of the IT bill to override the access code of a virtual digital space is only the reiteration of the already existing provision in a simpler language. No additional power has been given to the tax authorities. Similar powers for searches and seizures are currently there under Section 132 of the existing IT Act 1961, wherein authorities can inspect and seize books of accounts and other documents in the form of electronic records. However, the new bill specifically outlines virtual digital spaces. As per Section 132 of the IT Act, tax authorities can enter and search any building, place, vessel, vehicle, or aircraft where persons are suspected to have kept books of account, other documents, money, bullion, jewelry, or any valuable article to evade tax authorities have the power to break open doors, lock safes and other repositories and seize any such suspected books of account, other documents, money, bullion, jewelry, or other valuable articles. Now, New bill tabled in the Lok Sabha last month explicitly includes virtual digital space. Roshni Nadar Malhotra set to become HCL's largest shareholder. GST rates will further come down as the rates rationalization nears finale. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman Sunday said the GST rates will further come down as the team as and the work on rationalizing tax rates and slabs has almost reached a finale. She read the revenue neutral rate has come down from 15.8% of the launch of GST on July 2017 to 11.4%. It will come down even further. GST Council headed by Sitharaman and comprising her state counterparts set up a group of ministers to rationalize GST rates. Electronics manufacturing key priority for PM Modi, says Vaishnav. Electronics manufacturing key. How IKEA plans to sharpen focus on sleep quality in India. Legal trouble for SpiceJet over insolvency pleas. Three lessors lists have filed petitions seeking initiation of insolvency proceedings under SpiceJet claims dues of 110 crore. Where women need to put self-care first. With Donald Trump throwing huge chunks of the world as we knew it into history's garbage bin every day, it's been comforting to hear words of reassurance from our own Prime Minister. Last week he reminded us from being an economic basket case some years ago, he has managed in the past 10 years to place India in the ranks of top economies of the world. We are fifth largest economy now and will soon be third. He holds a conference organized by a media group in Delhi. He addresses so many meetings and makes so many speeches that it is hard to keep up with all of them. But the gist is that all is well. Following his lead, his ministers also exude optimism and confidence. It is true they admit that if Trump goes ahead with imposing reciprocal tariffs, Indian exports to the United States take a hit. Nothing to worry about. Trump's popularity among Indians remain untouched. Last November, special players who said uh, in India for candidate Trump, Hindu priest stood before a garland portrait of Mr. American President chanting, "Make world great again, vote for Donald Trump," before reciting Sanskrit shloks and preparing a havan. Admittedly, this was before Modi went to the White House and was told by his friend that India was tariff king of the world and needed to change its ways, and before some of our fellow citizens who had entered the United States illegally were sent back in handcuffs and fetters. Perhaps India will be alright despite these things, but just to make sure this we need to up our game. The reason why China is more alright than US than us is because it is in competition with the United States to become the world's most powerful economy. It is now perhaps India will be alright despite these things. China is more alright than us is because it is in competition with the United States to become the world's most powerful economy. It is now so advanced when it comes to new technological frontiers that it has come up with an AI model that is as good as any and much cheaper. It has been the factory of the world for decades, and though our Prime Minister told us again last week that this is a role we play soon, We are not there yet. We are not there for many reasons, but one big reason is that instead of concentrating on the things that matter, most BJP leaders spend their time on the things that confirm that we are still have third world priorities. Instead of making serious effort to improve the abysmal quality of public education system, they choose to stir up needless war over Hindi. The list of things to do before we begin to compete with China or even East Asia is long, but our political leaders concentrate on what they understand best, which is how to create tensions between Hindus and Muslims. Last week, over a huge row in Maharashtra over someone having praised Aurangzeb, and in Madhya Pradesh, the police trashed men they suspected of being cattle smugglers. In Delhi, the process of erasing Mughal names from roads and their glories from history books continues to briskly, causing Indian Muslims to feel as if the objective of these exercises to make them feel second-class citizens. Can we not can we not get beyond all this? The extraordinary response to the Mahakumbh, more than half the population of India is believed to have turned up, is proof. Not that proof was needed that Indians are certainly the most religious people in the world, but now that it is over, Prime Minister may need to get his team to work on things that could help India reach closer to the economic heights that China has reached. Any traveler to China can tell you that its cities look like real cities and its infrastructure is dazzling. Last went more than 10 years ago and I took a train from Tianjin to Beijing that traveled at more than 300 kilometers an hour. There was a time long ago when China was still in clutches of the Maoism that India was ahead in almost every way. Every time I have put this question to an Indian bureaucrat, the answer has always been that it is because we are a democratic country that we have been left behind. This is rubbish. Democracy is one achievement that puts us ahead of China in a very important way. With the right leadership and right resolve, we'll surely build the factories and infrastructure, and we badly need to compete with China. It will take much longer for China to build those institutions of democracy. Small comfort though, since in the world that is now being remade by Trump, India will need to do a lot more to catch up if we want to be not just competitive but relevant. No number of prayers are going to help us get there. What we need are leaders with modern vision of the road that we need to travel for us to remain relevant in the changing certainties of the new world. Narendra Modi could soon be facing the biggest test of his political career. It is no longer enough to give us nice slogans and words of comfort. It is time from him to show that he can turn slogans like Viksit Bharat and India's century into solid, visible reality. The clash in which Singset died took place in Kangpokpi district between Kukizo residents there and security forces escorting a bus that had left Imphal Saturday morning and was heading for Naga majority Senapati via Kangpokpi. Kangpokpi. Large crowds also clashed with security forces in Gamgepai, the entry point into Kangpokpi from a Methi majority Imphal West district earlier in the day, a senior police officer of the district confirmed. In a March 1 meeting, Shah had directed security forces to enable free movement of people on all roads in the state from March 8 in an attempt to ensure that Metis are able to pass through the hills of the state and that Kukis can come to the Imphal Valley. Through the course of conflict, members of either community have not been able to safely venture into each other's areas. In line with this, Manipur's chief secretary notified that the government would arrange the buses under security escort traveling from Imphal to Senapati via Kangpokpi and vice versa. While a bus from Imphal to Churachandpur completed the route without incident and without any passengers, the bus traveling through Kangpokpi was met by large crowds of protesters at Gang Giphai Saturday morning groups based on Kangpokpi has earlier voiced their opposition to the movement of vehicles carrying Meiteis into their district, stating they would not allow free movement until their political demand for separate administration is addressed. According to security official, after the bus was stopped, the protesters pelted stones at the convoy and security forces deployed the use of lathi charge and tear gas shells. After dispersing the crowd, the bus continued to travel forward but could not move past Ketham Manbi. As protesters clashed with security forces again in Clayton Malby, security escalated. BSF vehicle was set ablaze by the crowd and security forces retaliated with force. So that's all for today. See you in the next one.